When I was 12 years old, my dad gave me this old Champion spark plug shipping crate full of hot rod magazines. Ever since, I've been enamored with the archaic and hastily produced boxes. Through the years, this fascination has only deepened, and I've collected a number of them. I use them for storing spare hot rod parts, tools, and old hot rod magazines. I think I cherish them so much because of their link to the past, their historical significance, but also because, and maybe despite of all that, they are still completely functional. I just fill them with the things that I need and then display them as if they were art. And it's this love for boxes that led me to choose a shipping crate for my first project with my new tools. The idea here is to take some common poplar, cut it, glue it, and join it until I'm left with a clean and modern example of what was once old and archaic. So first things first, I was at Home Depot and ran across a guy having some poplar cut. He didn't have a use for his scraps and graciously gave them to me. Each board, however, was only about 8 inches wide, and I wanted my box to be 12 inches tall, so I needed to join the scraps using my Festool domino joiner. The process of doing so is easy. Just lay out the material and scribe a simple pencil mark in the location where you want to place dominoes. Once done, align your pencil marks with the fence on the domino machine and cut the mortises to the appropriate depths. What you are left with is a perfectly aligned joint ready for glue up.
So in the matter of a couple of minutes, I am getting ready to glue up some mortise and tenon joints with the glue bot because I'm lean.
The next morning, I woke to my newly enlarged material and got to work. When fit dry, the joints are so smooth that sanding doesn't even feel necessary. But I always manage to get way more squeeze out than your typical YouTube carpenter, and as such, have to sand the glue off. Easy enough though. And once that sanding was done, I needed to get a good square edge to reference off of. To do so, I just used the factory edge of the lumber against the fence on my MFT table. So I now had 2 edges of the lumber true, one I could use against the fence and one that I could use against a stop block. I then laid out the cuts I needed to make, set up the stop block, and started in with my track saw. What all of this pre-thought really did for me was create repeatability with my cuts, which, in turn, gave me 4 sides to a box that matched perfectly. And with the sides of the box cut, I started to ponder the bottom. Typically, I think folks would cut some dados on the table saw for a 1/4 inch bottom and be done with it. But I really wanted to stick with the Festool system for demonstration purposes, and decided to use my Festool router along with the optional guide rails to cut the dados. It actually worked really well, and setup time was minimal. And again, because I was using the stop on the MFT fence, I was able to make the process repeatable and accurate across all sides of the box. So with the dados cut, it was time to make the bottom. I decided to use some 1/4 inch poplar scrap that I had on hand to kind of emulate the boarded bottoms of my vintage crates. The MFT made short work of this. Before I started to put the box together, I wanted to add something simple on the sides to make carrying the box a little easier. To go with my modern theme, I opted for some simple 1 1/4 inch finger holes. I kept the outside of the holes sharp and clean, but I used a roundover bit to soften up the inside a bit. And with that, it was time to cut the mortises for the box sides. I was thinking about my vintage crates again when I decided to go with a butt joint rather than miters. I just like the character of Ingrain and the simplicity of the look. The domino machine made easy work of these joints, but when I was dry fitting, I had huge gaps in 2 of the corners. It didn't make sense to me until I noticed one of my sides was cupped badly. That's when I remembered. I had a shop fire after I joined these boards, and this box side was actually in my lumber rack that almost went up in flames. I figured I'd have to just rejoint and recut that side, but I had an idea I wanted to try first. Assuming the heat from the fire dried out one side of the board, why couldn't I simply dry out the other side to get rid of the cup? Amazingly, it took 10 minutes with the heat gun to get the board straight again. After that, my corners were tight and the glue up went swimmingly. All that was left was a final sanding. I took the whole thing to 220 grit using my Rotex 150. I haven't applied a finish yet, but I think I'll actually paint the inside a nice crisp white while leaving the outside a natural poplar under some lettering if I get inclined. I'm really happy with how it turned out. I know it's just a box and far from some huge woodworking accomplishment, but it's a perfect box. The joints are all tight and even, the corners are all perfectly square, and well, it's the first thing I've ever really made out of wood where I set out to make something nice, and it's pretty damn nice. I think I owe a lot of that to the tools that I was using, and maybe now is a good time to go over them. I went over the Festool CT26 dust extractor in my last video, but let's start there anyway. Of all the tools I recently bought from Festool, this might be my favorite purchase. It's kind of the foundation of the system in that all of my tools plug into it, and it almost entirely eliminates any wood dust. Plus, I found a new love for it while cleaning up after my recent fire. This thing is quiet, user-friendly, and performs. Next on the list is a track saw. I've used other track saws in the past, and frankly, don't think there is anything too incredibly special about this TS55. In fact, its depth control accuracy frustrates me at times, but the thing is, it works so well with dust collection that I'd buy it again just for that. One tool that I do absolutely love is the DF500 domino joiner. It makes joinery so easy and quick. Plus, this thing is really built like a brick shithouse. If I wasn't in the midst of a Festool collection of sorts, this is the one tool I would buy regardless. It really changes the game in my opinion. This is the Rotex 150 sander that I used. It's a $600 6-inch sander. You heard that right, $600. And I thought that price was crazy too until I used it. It's really more like two sanders in one. A strictly orbital sander and a random orbital sander depending on what setting you have it on. Because of this, you can use this tool to rough sand and finish sand. It really can be your only sander. Plus the dust collection with the CT26 is insanely good. The same goes for the dust collection on the OF 1400 router. It's incredible. Now, the only other router I've ever owned was a Bosch Colt, so I'm not really the guy to look to for router reviews. But I feel like the OF 1400 has weird ergonomics, is expensive, and is probably the only tool I got that makes me truly wonder about value. It's obviously a great router, but at $600, I'd like to see it come with more of the optional accessories from Festool. And that leaves us with the MFT table. I love this thing. It's so damn flexible and presents so many opportunities to make your life easier. It's just a joy to use, and in my opinion, worth every penny. At the end of the day, I think that's what Festool is really all about, making your life easier. I don't think any of these tools will make you a master carpenter by any stretch, but I do think they set me up to achieve the results that I couldn't have gotten without a lot more effort from some other tool system. And there you have it. If you're interested in owning a really nice box, one option is to spend thousands with Festool and make your own.